Mix 400 grams of warm water with 1 tablespoon of honey. Sprinkle 12 grams of active dry yeast. Mix everything together. Try not to let your water get over 115 degrees. After 5 to 10 minutes, your yeast should be nice and active and bubbly and ready to go. Melt 6 tablespoons of salted butter. Combine 750 grams of all-purpose flour with 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Combine the warm butter with your yeast mixture. With your paddle attachment in place, now we're going to start adding that flour mixture in small portions, mixing well between each addition. Don't forget to scrape down the sides occasionally. And you're going to start to notice the more flour you add to your dough, it's going to start pulling away from the sides of your mixer, and that's what you want to see. It's also a great way to gauge when your flour to water mixture is right where you need it to be. Scrape it down, and then you're going to want to oil a very large bowl that is going to allow your dough to rise 2 to 2.5 times in size. Your dough should feel very soft and stretchy, but not sticky. This is where you know your water to flour mixture is just right. And then I do what I call a tuck fold, where I'm just sort of tucking it all under, making it nice and taut on top. And then I'm going to flop it down in the bowl, give it a nice coat of oil on all the sides, prevent that bread from drying out while it's rising up. It's going to let it rise nice and high. Cover that bowl with a lid or some saran wrap. And then you're going to place it into a slightly warm oven, making sure that oven is not on. In about an hour, your bread should be nice and doubled up, just like this. And then we're going to gently stretch it. We're going to do a tri-fold. We're going to flip it over this way, flip it over this way, and then from the other side, we're just going to flip it over and kind of jelly roll it. And then using a bench scraper or a nice sharp knife, we're going to cut this into 12 equal pieces for some good size rolls. And then from here, what you see some people do is they kind of take this dough ball and they sort of roll it around on the table like this with a little seam on the bottom. But me personally, I like to take my little dough ball and I just sort of gently tuck it in with my thumbs from the outside, just sort of pushing it all to the middle. And what this does is it kind of creates like a little tight balloon on top. And then I just sort of give it a little pinch on the bottom to seal it. When you turn it over, it should feel like a tight little balloon. Just sort of gently touch it like that. And then again, we're just going to push it gently with our thumbs. It's just like making little tortilla balls. Okay, we're just going to pinch it until we have that nice tight little balloon on top. I have to say, bread is one of my absolute top favorite things to make. I enjoy everything about the entire process. And let's admit it, I mean, who doesn't love some nice, delicious, warm, fresh bread? And then we're going to place them on a parchment-covered baking sheet, making sure to leave room because these are also going to expand 2 to 2.5 times. And then I like to give the tops a little spray, making sure our dough doesn't dry out while they're rising. And then back into that slightly warm oven for about 30 minutes. Look at those. Those are beautiful. And from here, we're going to pop them in the refrigerator to stop that rising process while we get everything else going. Preheat the oven to 425 degrees. In a small to medium-sized saucepan, bring 5 cups of water to a boil. Sprinkle in a 1/4 cup of baking soda. This is what gives our pretzel buns that wonderful, chewy, delicious pretzel crust. And then we're going to start adding our dough balls. And you want to boil them for 20 seconds on top. I start with the top and then I flip them over and I boil them for another 15 seconds on the bottom. There's enough room in this pot where you would be fine boiling 2 at a time if you wanted to speed up the process. This is also the same technique that you would use to make pretzels or pretzel knots or even bagels. When you scoop your dough balls up out of the water, make sure you drain off as much water as you can. And then placing them back onto the parchment, leaving them room to expand while baking. While the oven is preheating, I like to add a small pan of water in there. It's totally optional, but I find that it does help the bread rise up a little bit better. And then we're going to whip one whole egg, using that to brush on top of our dough. And this is going to give our pretzel buns that nice, deep, rich, dark color. Now, using a bread lame or a nice sharp knife, we're going to score the top of our buns. I'm just going to do two nice long cuts along the sides and then one right in the middle. And what this does is it allows your buns to rise up nice and high when they're baking. And then I'm just going to give them a little sprinkle with some sea salt for that nice pretzel flavor, or you can add some nice herbs or cheese or whatever you like on top. When the oven reaches 425 degrees, we're going to slide those back in the oven on the middle rack, and we're going to bake them for 10 to 15 minutes or until your buns are just a nice dark golden brown. Look at those. What a beautiful color, and the smell is just amazing. I love making these for family gatherings, but especially during the holidays. I hope you enjoyed this recipe and tutorial by Michelle at DIY Creative Living Ideas.